What if I told you that everything you feel, your joy, your sorrow, your hope, your fear, is a tool someone else is already using to control you? That your greatest enemy might not be the people around you, but the very emotions inside you? What if the key to total power isn't kindness, intelligence, or even courage, but the ability to feel absolutely nothing? In this video, we're going to take you deep into the mind of Niccolo Machiavelli, a mind so sharp, so cold, so brutally honest that most people never recover after truly understanding it. This is not a video meant to comfort you. It is meant to crack your soul wide open. You are about to journey into one of the darkest, most powerful philosophies ever conceived. And if you make it to the end, you may never see the world the same way again.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
There's a reason the name Machiavelli still echoes through the centuries. He didn't teach men how to be good. He taught them how to win. He didn't pretend to care about morality, fairness, or even truth. He only cared about one thing: power. Power that lasts. Power that rules. And the first lesson he taught: that emotions are a weakness. That to lead, to dominate, to rise above the masses, you must become immune to the very thing that defines most people: their feelings. Think about your own life. How many times have you made a decision because you were afraid of hurting someone? How often have you hesitated because you felt guilt, shame, or doubt? Who benefits when you hold back your ambition because you don't want to step on someone else's toes? The painful truth is this: the world is not run by the kind-hearted. It is run by those who understand one brutal principle: compassion is a luxury and power is a necessity. Machiavelli didn't want you to be cruel for the sake of cruelty. He wanted you to see the world without illusions. He believed that most people are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and cowards. That if you rely on their love, you are already lost, because love is temporary. But fear lasts. Fear controls. Fear rules. And the man who can wield fear without being consumed by it, he is the one who can rule everyone. Now ask yourself, can you master your own emotions? Can you feel the storm inside you: anger, love, sadness, pride, and silence it? Can you become empty enough to be unshakable, and yet aware enough to use the emotions of others like weapons? Because that's what Machiavelli teaches. It's not about becoming a robot. It's about becoming a mirror. A mirror that reflects what others want to see while hiding the machinery behind your eyes. You smile when they need peace. You rage when they need fear. You inspire when they need hope. But inside you remain untouched, old, strategic, focused. That is not villainy. That is mastery. And it is very rare. Let's go deeper. Why do emotions make us weak? Because they bind us to outcomes. We want people to like us. We want to be seen as good. We want to feel safe, accepted, understood. But those desires are chains. They keep you from doing what is necessary. If you want to lead, you must do things others won't. Make decisions others fear. Say words others choke on. And you must do it without flinching. That's what it means to feel nothing. It's not about being heartless. It's about being invulnerable. Imagine walking into a room full of enemies and feeling nothing. You look into their eyes and they try to intimidate you, manipulate you, seduce you. but you don't budge because you understand them better than they understand themselves. You see their fear, their hunger, their jealousy, and you use it. You don't react, you orchestrate. Now, here's a question for you. When was the last time you made a hard decision without worrying how others would judge you? When did you act purely out of necessity, not emotion? And if you haven't, why not? Who taught you that you must always be kind, agreeable, emotional? Was it society, your parents, your culture? And more importantly, how has that belief served you? Are you powerful because of it? Or are you trapped in a cycle of pleasing everyone but yourself? Machiavelli would say this: the lion is feared, the fox is clever. The best ruler is both. He didn't say you should be cruel. He said you should appear kind while being ruthless underneath. He didn't say you should betray everyone. He said you should never trust blindly. He didn't say feelings are evil. He said feelings are tools, and only tools. You use them when they serve you. You discard them when they don't. Let's talk manipulation, because this is where most people get uncomfortable. Machiavelli wasn't afraid to say it. People are meant to be influenced. If you don't influence them, someone else will. If you don't shape their emotions, someone else will. And if you're not careful, you'll be the one dancing to someone else's tune while thinking you're free. So how do you manipulate without becoming a monster? You understand human nature. You study it like a scientist. You learn what people want: security, admiration, love, excitement, and you become a master of giving it to them in just the right doses. But never for free. Always for a purpose. You create alliances. You build loyalty. You instill fear, but never hatred. Because hate is uncontrollable. Fear is precise. This is where psychology meets philosophy. You must understand the inner workings of the human mind, yours and others. You must learn how guilt works, how shame is used, how praise is weaponized. You must become fluent in emotional language while never being ruled by it. Every compliment you give is calculated. Every silence is deliberate. Every expression is a move on the board. And when others try to use emotions against you, when they beg, cry, threaten, flatter, you must remain still. They will call you cold. They will say you've changed. Let them. Because you are no longer playing the same game. You are not reacting. You are ruling. Now let's flip the mirror again. Why are you afraid of power? Why does the idea of ruling make you uncomfortable? Is it because you've been told that power corrupts, that only evil people want control? But look at history. Look at the people who changed the world. Were they emotional wrecks, or were they laser-focused, ruthlessly strategic, and unflinchingly decisive? Power doesn't corrupt. It reveals. And if you are afraid of what power might do to you, the question is what's already inside you that you don't want to see. So here's another question. What would your life look like if you felt nothing when it came to fear, guilt, rejection, failure? What would you do differently? Who would you cut off? What risks would you take? What truths would you finally speak? To feel nothing is not to become numb. It's to become clear. Clear of illusions. Clear of false hopes. Clear of emotional noise. You see things as they are, people as they are, yourself as you are. And from that clarity, true power emerges. But most people can't handle that clarity. They prefer the fog, the cozy lies, and the comforting drama. Because clarity requires responsibility, and responsibility requires strength. Not just physical strength, but emotional sovereignty. The ability to say, I will not be owned by my feelings. I will own them. And that's where the transformation begins. When you stop asking, how do I feel? And start asking, what must be done? When you stop chasing happiness and start building strategy. When you stop trying to be liked and start becoming effective. So here's your challenge. Today, in one small moment, feel nothing. When someone insults you, feel nothing. When someone flatters you, feel nothing. Observe, analyze, strategize, and then act not from emotion, but from clarity. Because in the end, the one who can feel nothing does not become inhuman. He becomes invincible. And in a world of chaos, that kind of clarity is not just rare, it's revolutionary. Now that we've begun to peel away the illusions, let's descend even deeper. You've started to understand that emotions, while natural, are not always useful. But here's the next truth. People are not governed by reason. They are governed by perception. And the one who controls perception controls the world. If you want to rule, you don't need to change reality. You only need to change how people see it. And this is where Machiavelli's brilliance becomes terrifyingly clear. He taught that appearances are often more powerful than truth. That being seen as virtuous is more important than being virtuous. That if you must choose between being loved and being feared, always choose fear, because love is conditional, but fear is dependable. It's not about being evil, it's about being unbreakable. Think about how often you've compromised your own truth just to maintain a certain image. How often you've smiled when you wanted to scream. How often you've agreed when you wanted to rebel. Machiavellian thinking strips all that away. It replaces emotional impulse with strategic intent. But here's the paradox. To feel nothing, you must feel everything and then choose to rise above it. You must become so deeply self-aware that you can predict your own emotional responses before they happen. You must dissect your own fear, your own pride, your own desire for validation, and replace them with discipline. And that level of control doesn't come from repression. It comes from mastery. How do you begin to master yourself? By understanding that every moment is a test. When someone angers you, it's a test of your composure. When someone flatters you, it's a test of your humility. When someone betrays you, it's a test of your clarity. Each reaction you give away is a piece of power handed over. The goal is not to become emotionless, it's to become ungoverned by emotion. To use feeling as a servant, never a master. Machiavelli would ask you this: what is your greatest fear? Not spiders, not heights, but the real fear, the one that drives your decisions. Is it the fear of being alone? The fear of failure? The fear of being seen as weak? That fear is the leash around your neck. And the only way to rule is to break it. Because until you do, someone else, some system, some person, some idea is pulling it. You must ask yourself, who benefits from your fear? When you stay quiet at work, who gains? When you hold back your truth in a relationship, who wins? When you avoid risk to stay comfortable, who prospers? And more importantly, what do you lose every time you hesitate? Remember this: the world rewards decisiveness, not emotion. Leaders are not those who feel the most. They are those who act when others freeze, who speak when others tremble, who move when others wait. And that power comes from a core so centered, so still, that nothing shakes it. This is what it means to feel nothing, not to be dead inside, but to be alive in a way most people will never understand. Let's now switch lenses and talk about manipulation from the other side. Because to rule, you must not only be immune to emotional manipulation, you must recognize how others are being manipulated. Every commercial you see, every politician you hear, every influencer you follow, they're using emotional triggers to guide your behavior. Fear, guilt, aspiration, envy. These are not just feelings. They are levers, and you are the machine. But once you see the levers, you can stop being the machine and start being the engineer. You learn to ask, why did that message make me feel this way? What desire is being activated? What fear is being poked? What illusion is being sold? Once you start asking those questions, you begin to see the system. And when you see the system, you can begin to bend it. Here's a brutal question. Are you living your life, or are you living a script written by someone else's expectations? If you're chasing a job, a lifestyle, a reputation because it makes others happy, then who are you really? And if you don't know, who's ruling your life? Machiavelli believed that the masses are predictable. They follow patterns. They crave structure. They respond to symbols. And the ruler, whether a monarch, a president, a CEO, or a quiet mastermind, uses those patterns to create loyalty, fear, admiration. Not by chance, by design. This is why you must study not just your own mind, but the minds of others. Learn what motivates them. Learn what they avoid. Learn what they lie about, especially to themselves. Because the deepest manipulations are not external, they are internal. A person can be ruled by a belief they don't even know they have. And if you can see that belief before they do, you hold the strings. But with great power comes a choice. Will you use what you know to empower or to dominate? Machiavelli never told you what morality to follow. He only exposed the game, the rules, and the consequences. The rest is up to you. And perhaps that's his most terrifying gift. He removes the illusion of innocence. He forces you to confront the fact that every choice is a power move. Even silence, even kindness, even love. So how do you walk the line between manipulation and leadership? Between strategy and tyranny? The answer is found in intent. If your aim is to elevate, to protect, to build, then your coldness is a tool. But if your aim is to control for the sake of control, then you become the tyrant Machiavelli warned about. The one who rules through fear but forgets to inspire loyalty. And that kind of ruler always falls. Let's return to the internal battlefield for a moment. Because to rule others, you must first rule yourself. And ruling yourself means confronting parts of you that are not yet sovereign. Your need for praise, your craving for attention, your addiction to being right. Every one of these is a weakness, a crack in your armor, and your enemies will find them. So how do you seal those cracks? You practice emotional detachment. You train your mind to observe before reacting. You replace "how do I feel" with "what is the move." You create space between stimulus and response. In that space, you become powerful. Not because you suppress your feelings, but because you transcend them. This is not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest disciplines in existence. It requires solitude, reflection, brutal honesty. It requires you to look at yourself like a general looks at his army dispassionately, strategically, constantly seeking improvement. And it requires you to be okay with being misunderstood, with being called cold, with being accused of caring too little. Because the truth is, you care deeply but not recklessly. You understand that true influence doesn't come from shouting your feelings. It comes from mastering them, from becoming the calmest person in the room, no matter what chaos surrounds you. Free from being the one others look to when they panic, because you are the one who never flinches. Now here's a moment of reflection. Think of someone in your life who has power over you, not physical, but emotional. Someone whose opinions shape your actions, whose approval you chase. Ask yourself, why do they have that power? What part of you have they tapped into? And what would happen if you stopped needing it? That's the beginning of liberation. That's the beginning of ruling. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to be loud. You only need to be clear. Clear in your mind, clear in your mission, clear in your behavior. And once you are, others will follow you not because you begged them to, but because clarity is magnetic. In the end, to feel nothing is to become the eye of the storm, still, focused, surrounded by chaos, yet untouched by it. And from that position, you don't just survive, you command. Now we step into the final stage of this transformation, the point where you no longer merely understand Machiavellian power, but begin to embody it. This is where the inner and outer worlds collide. Everything you've learned so far, emotional detachment, strategic manipulation, clarity over chaos, was preparation for this final step, to rule. Not just others, but your reality. Because once you master your internal world, the external world starts to bend. But let's not romanticize it. Ruling comes with weight. Not everyone is meant to carry it. Most people want the illusion of power, not the responsibility. They want to feel strong, not be strong. There's a difference. The strong stay silent when others scream. They act when others hesitate. They decide when others doubt. And that's where the game changes. Because the person who can act without needing emotional validation becomes unstoppable. Let's be brutally honest. Do you think the world is fair? Do you think good things happen to good people just because they're good? Or do you see that the world rewards those who move with precision, who act with intent, who make things happen rather than waiting for permission? If you've been waiting for fairness, you've already lost. Machiavelli would tell you, life is not a courtroom. It's a battlefield, and the battlefield doesn't care about your feelings. It only responds to force, to clarity, to execution. And here's the twist: most people think power is about domination. But in its highest form, it's about influence. The power to shape minds, to shift rooms, to quietly command respect without ever demanding it. That kind of power doesn't come from loud words. It comes from silent conviction, from the aura of someone who knows exactly who they are, where they're going, and what they're willing to sacrifice to get there. Now ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because that's the cost of true power. You must give up comfort. You must let go of the need to be understood. You must walk alone. You must become so aligned with your mission that even if the world laughs, mocks, or resists, you move forward anyway. Think of every legend you admire, every revolutionary, every king, every CEO, every visionary. Do you think they were ruled by their emotions? Or do you think they ruled despite them? They felt fear and walked through it. They felt doubt and acted anyway. They felt pain and used it as fuel. That's what it means to feel nothing. Not to be empty, but to be focused. And here's something no one tells you. Once you stop reacting emotionally, people become transparent. You'll see through lies instantly. You'll notice micro-expressions of insecurity, manipulation, and fear. You'll start predicting behavior before it happens. Because when you're no longer consumed by your inner storm, you can read the weather in everyone else. This is what gives you the edge. While others are distracted by feelings, you're already 3 steps ahead. While they argue over opinions, you're moving pieces in silence. While they seek applause, you're building empires. But here's the moral dilemma. With great insight comes great temptation. Once you realize how easy it is to manipulate, to control, to dominate, what stops you from becoming a villain? This is where Machiavelli's philosophy forces you to ask the most dangerous question of all. If you had absolute power, what kind of ruler would you be? Would you use fear to crush dissent? Or would you use clarity to inspire loyalty? Would you deceive for personal gain? Or would you strategize for collective strength? There's no easy answer. But the fact that you're asking, that you're aware of the power you hold, that's what separates the tyrant from the master. Because the true Machiavellian doesn't need to be evil. He only needs to be effective. He doesn't seek destruction. He seeks order. And sometimes, order requires hard choices. Sometimes the kindest act is the one that appears cruel. Sometimes the greatest mercy is no mercy at all. Let's bring this back to your life. Right now, there are areas where you are not ruling, places where your emotions still dominate. Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your health, your discipline, your time. These are the domains where you are still a servant. And until you take control of them, until you remove the emotion and replace it with structure, you will never be free. Freedom is not the absence of rules. It's the mastery of them. To feel nothing is not to be numb. It's to be deliberate. To choose your emotions like weapons, not wear them like chains. And when you reach that level, you stop being reactive. You start being inevitable. So how do you begin practically? Here are your tools. First, silence. Learn to say nothing when everyone speaks. In silence, you gather power. You observe. You calculate. Second, delayed response. Never act at the peak of emotion. Buy time. Let the feeling pass. Then act with clarity. Third, self-questioning. Before every decision, ask, is this my emotion speaking or my mission? If it's emotion, pause. If it's mission, proceed. Fourth, mirror discipline. Become whatever the situation needs but remain unchanged inside. Adapt outside, stay solid inside. Fifth, strategic distance. Don't get too close to anyone emotionally. Love, yes. Trust, maybe. But always keep a part of yourself separate. That is your throne. No one else sits there. Now, a final question. One that could haunt you for the rest of your life if you answer it honestly. If you were not afraid of failure, judgment, or rejection, what would you do? What empire would you build? What truth would you tell? Who would you become? And more importantly, what's stopping you? Machiavelli's final lesson is this: power is not found. It is taken. It is claimed by those who are willing to feel discomfort, endure solitude, and walk the path others fear. If you are waiting for permission, you will never rule. If you are waiting for clarity, you are already too late. To feel nothing, to rule everyone is not a call to cruelty. It is a call to mastery, to become the calm in the storm, the eye of the hurricane, the one who moves when others freeze, the one who leads when others break, the one who rises not because they feel nothing, but because they control everything within. And when you reach that point when you no longer need applause, validation, or even sympathy, you become untouchable. You don't just rule people, you rule reality. This is not for everyone. This is for the few, the rare, the silent, the strategic, the sovereign. So next time the world tries to shake you, ask yourself, do I feel nothing? Do I rule this moment? Or does this moment rule me? Because in the end, the throne isn't out there. It's in here. And only the one who masters this can rule that.